So I'm going to have a go at showing you how to make a monogram relief design on a mug. You could do it on a plant pot or some other kind of pot or container. This may well get used more as a pen pot, but I'm going to see if I can have a go at making it so it could be food safe, so you could actually use it. So what do you need? You're going to need a mug, and there's nothing specific about it. A paler colour would work well depending on what you use. A white one would probably be your real best bet. I've got some that I got for free on Facebook, so I'm going to give those a go another time, but I'm going to try one of these. This is a super cheap Asda 65p mug from who knows when. You need some kind of paints or pens. Now this is where you need to decide ultimately what you want your pot to be used for. If you want something which somebody is going to potentially use as an actual drinking item, you need to make sure that whatever you use to decorate it is going to be food safe. If you want it as a decorative item, then you can use different paints or inks or materials or whatever to finish it, because you can use something like a varnish to set it. If you want something that is going to be food safe, you need to make sure that it's something that you can that will either dry food safe, or you can bake it, and that will then make it safe to use, irrespective of whether you use a baked type item, baked type paint or finish. You probably don't want to have any paint or decoration applied where the lips are going to be on a mug. I'm going to try on this attempt at using Posca pens. I've got a whole set of these that I bought for rock painting, and these are a water-based paint and they're kind of acrylics, but according to their website, if you bake it, then it should make it wash proof and food safe. You could invest or buy some porcelain painter pens. You can often buy these individually, and these are designed to work on porcelain. I also have some glass paint which you could apply either with a brush, and what we're going to do is we're going to make dots. So something like these tools, these are used for making mandalas, so they're tools, and basically they just have you've either got sticks and you dab the end into paint and then press it down onto your surface with round things. You can buy these quite cheaply on eBay or Amazon. I bought those in lockdown for the girls to have a try. But you could just use a paintbrush, it's just a little bit more fiddly. And what we're going to do is create a monogram. So I'm going to do an M on this for Millie, and then we're going to decorate around the outside. So we're going to do a series of spots. I'll give you an idea. Here's one I did, which isn't particularly good. It's not very effective. This was done with Sharpie pens. So this is another method you could use, but doing nice, decent, blobby circles to create the dotted effect is a bit tricky. And I made my letter quite big. I'm going to wash this off, but I've kept it just so you can see the effect that A, we're kind of after, but B, also the effect you'll get if you use something like Sharpie pens. If you are going to use Sharpie pens to make something decorative, all I would say is go for the fatter tips. These are fine point Sharpies that I got and I used, and that just meant that I couldn't make a really big, nice, sort of decent sized blob dot. So you need your mug, you need your paints, and you'll need something to create your sticker, to create your relief. So you can buy stickers in craft shops, and I've even seen packs of 2 letters like these, possibly around that size too, in Poundland, and they would work quite well. But you don't have to spend money on buying specific stickers. What I did was I took a pack of just basic white labels that I have all the time anyway. You could use any kind of sticker if you can find anything that's sticky and a decent size. And basically I just took one of my stickers off, overlapped it slightly with the other, and then I drew my shape and then cut that out. So this was taken from just 2 basic white address labels. So first thing you need to do is make sure that your cup is super clean. So I've already had a practice with this so far today. So give that a good wipe and then make sure it is absolutely dry before you try and put your sticker on. And you don't have to do a letter, you can obviously do messages. There's some quite cool sort of inspirational sort of just how beautiful or be happy. So I'm going to try and get mine roughly in the centre, and I would suggest you try not to get too close to the top or the bottom, because if we're going to do this effect all the way around the outside, you want to make sure that you've got room to get around it, and you also ideally don't want to go too close to the top if it's likely to be used as a drinking cup. You need to try and make sure it's pushed down really well, because as we go round, ideally you don't want any paint tucking underneath. And then I'm going to use, like I said, my Posca pens, and what I found is if you're going to use a cup or a mug or pot of whatever kind which isn't white, you probably want to go reasonably dark. That said, I do have some white, so it might be that I might put some white dots in mine actually. And basically you're going to just dot all the way around. Now the way this works the most effectively is if you create quite a thick concentration of spots and dots really close to your letter, and then let it sort of dissipate out as you get slightly further away. I've obviously still got some slightly damp bits, my paint's not sticking quite so well everywhere. So in order to fill the space, what you might want to do is go for slightly larger spots. Definitely got bits where my paint isn't working quite so well. I probably should have left a little bit more time before I started trying to work on it. That'll be fine. So I'm going for trying to get in around my shape so that when this is finished you will be left with a really tight, the pattern will go tight up to the edges of this sticker, and what that will do then is give you a nice clear, quite crisp shape. I'm being really generous because I do want to have a really thick cover, and then what I'll do is once I've sort of gone through with the colours that I want to start with, I'll probably go back to the original colours and I'll extend the pattern out slightly further, but making the dots a little bit more sparse. and I'm working quite close together. So what you might really want to do if you're doing this in a slower time is do one colour and allow it to dry before you start on the next one, and then it just means you won't smudge anything. So you can guarantee I'll probably smudge something now. Try not to go over the edge. Try and make sure that your spots go up to and along it, but not over. And the reason I say that is because when I did another trial with these pens earlier, I found that they smudged a little bit more around the edge. Some had just seeped through because it's just a paper sticky label. Some had seeped through very slightly and just tucked under. Now if you've got your sticker from a shop and it's like more like a vinyl type sticker, you might have a better finish. So fill in as much as you can. Really sort of deep concentration of spots. Now you can go for bigger spots. I'm obviously going for quite small ones because if I go for bigger ones they'll be all, as it is, these are not particularly neat round spots. If I try and do bigger ones it's going to probably, knowing me, look a real horrendous mess. Now what would be really quite neat is if you can find yourself some metallic pens. I think I've got some gold and silver Posca pens amongst this lot as well. So I would probably keep any sort of shiny colours till last. Make sure you fill your space probably with darker colours first, so you really get that sort of concentration. It looks like those pictures that they make you look at, so you can see whether you can see the numbers and the letters that are hidden inside them. As I say, you probably want to allow a little bit more time in between doing the different colours. But as you can see, once you start to fill in the gaps in there, you get quite a deep concentration. And if afterwards, what I'll do, if I come over this side for a moment, what I'll do is I'll then just do a lighter sprinkling of dots further out, and I'll go back using the red and the blue as well too, and hopefully what you'll be able to do is create sort of really deep, almost confetti type look. Just looks like it's pooled with lots. How many colours you go for is entirely up to you. Depends on what pens you've got or paints you've got, how much time you want to spend, whether you go for bigger spots. If you go for bigger spots you might want or need less colours. So I'm not going to finish all of this right now. I'm going to see if I can just show you the effect in a second. Let me just see if I can get around one side. The benefit of allowing the layers to dry before you add the next colour is that you could apply some of them so they actually go over the top slightly, especially if you've got something like a gold or silver. There's nothing to stop you going for a random spray. There's something really bold and contrasting. When I attempted this earlier, my first go on with these pens, I used a lime green, which looks really good, but it really needed the dark, because I'm using a pink mug, it really needed the dark colours to really make the shape stand out much more. Obviously the pink just reduces the contrast. If you've got white mugs, definitely going to be better. So if I sort of almost finish there, just do a couple more spots in the other colours. You could, if you wanted to, you could go all the way around the mug. Nothing to stop you decorating both sides of the mug. You could take it out as far as you like, but hopefully you can see the effect I'm trying to go for. So I've got quite a deep concentration here, and then as you come out slightly, I'm going to make it just a little bit more concentrated, concentrated here, a little bit more spaced out, further apart, further out. So once you've done that, you really ideally want to let it dry. But just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. So if you've left it long enough to dry, you'll be able to do this with your fingers. But as mine is still wet, I'm just going to grab a pair of tweezers to pull this first bit off. So the effect is starting to come through. I'm going to stop there because then I can just finish off the rest. Once you've taken the sticker off, that doesn't mean you can't do any more. You can still add a little bit more. But what you'll be able to see, hopefully, is quite a contrast between the plain and the spotty. I've got some white. I might add a little bit of white in afterwards, but I think I might add in another dark colour. I might go for a purple. Something quite, I've got orange, but I'm not sure whether that will stand out so much. So I'm going to go to town with that, and then I will post a picture of the finished article, and then I'm going to have a go at baking it, and I'll let you know how that works. So the instructions, I think, for the Posca pens are that you pop your mug into the oven on something like around about 180. I'll double check that, but you cook it for no more than about 45 minutes. With some paints that I've seen, I think you pop it in the oven cold, let the oven heat up with the item in, and then you leave it in the oven afterwards. What I would say is whatever you use, always refer to the instructions. So I don't think there is any instructions on this particular one. No, this one does say it's dishwasher safe after a drying time of 24 hours, but I know I've used these to make a Santa plate, and I think I baked them too, just to be on the safe side. I think the instructions on their website suggested you could make it even more hard wearing by baking it. So probably the best thing to do, whatever paint pens you use, if you're going to try this method, check what the instructions are for setting it. If you want to make something decorative after you've done this stage, you could take a can of a clear spray varnish and just run that over the top. Certainly if you're going to make something like a plant pot or a pen pot, that would work just as well. And that will just need you to let your paints that you've started with, or your Sharpie pens or whatever, leave them to dry for probably 24 hours, and then spray it with your paint and then your varnish, and then leave that to dry for at least another 24 hours. And then there's your finished article, hopefully. So let me see what you've done.